Well, you have finally got here. You are listening to the Erskin Music Podcast. Here, by popular demand, we discuss life, culture, Christ, and of course, music. These half-hour broadcasts are perfect for a commute, coffee time, chat, or any other gap in your schedule where you want to put great content. So without further ado, let's join the conversation today, already in progress.
I love this. I get a chance to stand up. I finally got my setup the way that I want to. I'm in an undisclosed location in Nebraska, but that's okay, folks. We are here. You are here. I am here. And it is the race car episode today. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics. It's a two-topic Tuesday, and so I'm going quick today. Look at this. We got two stories, and let's see if we can get through those today. We've got music today. We've got a devotion today. We've got a lot of things, and so I'm going to try to speed up as much as I possibly can today. We've got the question of U.S. retaliation for the drone strikes that took place over the weekend. I want to see what your thoughts are on possible options for retaliation, and we're going to lighten the mood quite a bit after that, and we're going to talk about Ben Shapiro's new song. It's a number one song with Tom McDonald, and it kind of gets back into the music industry and gets back at the music industry. But I think there's a golden, maybe predictor that I think is coming for Christian music that I specifically want to talk about related to that story. So we got two topics today. We're doing donuts in the parking lot today. And if this is your car, man, please subscribe and like the channel and donate to the channel. All right, so let's get to it today. Got a variety of things that we got going on here today. It's the Erskin Music Show. So glad you guys could join it. And as soon as I can find my intro for the show, we are into this thing for today. Ben Shapiro and Tom McDonald. What are these guys doing? They got the number one song out. Let's see what's going on here with these guys. This is hilarious. They are in it to win it. Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire was accompanied by Tom McDonald, and they took to a form of communication that we like to call hip hop music. And it's totally sort of a run on what's going on in the hip hop industry. Now, I talked about this on my show last week, played some audio and some sound from the rapper and the artist 2023 Rapzilla Artist of the Year, D1, who has recently come out. He's made a lot of secular artists mad, upset about the fact that their lyrics, their craft, their style is being used to poison the minds of many people, and that is being glorified in the music industry. And there should be some accountability for what is coming out of the mouths of these artists, and there should be some accountability for these record label executives who are producing this type of thing. And so Ben Shapiro and those guys are kind of picking up that trend that is going on as D1 calls out the music industry. Other Bizzle has called out the music industry. There are other rappers now, Karen the Light, other people who are calling out the music industry, younger rappers, independent rappers who are calling out the music industry and saying, man, if we really are young patriarch, if we really are concerned about African-American and low-income areas, this poison is being produced and cranked into these communities that is poisoning the minds of people and causing them to think and act a certain way, to respond a certain way to authority, respond a certain way to people around them, to diminish the glory and the image of God. If this is really what is going on here, and it seems to be what is going on here, as you listen to the lyrics and you see the concomitant responses of people, if this is what is going on here, then this is a massive detriment to our society. This should be addressed. People should be held accountable for what is going on here. And the music industry is kind of act like, well, we don't know what's going on here. I mean, people just producing music, and people just buy that. No, there's a very meticulous, funneled, metered way that certain songs get elevated, other songs get diminished, certain messages get enfranchised, other messages get disenfranchised. And so that's been talked about by a lot of different artists. Ben Shapiro now takes to the stage with Tom McDonald to take on the music industry and what their goal in mind here, and I'll let them talk about it here as I pull up some sound. Their goal in mind is to produce a song that, with all the followers that they have, the followers go out and they support this song and then take it to #1 on the charts. Well, they take it to #1 on the charts, then it has to be in competition with other songs that are there on the chart of what are quote unquote legitimate artists that are out there. Now, Tom McDonald, he's a legitimate artist. Ben Shapiro, he's just kind of clowning on this. He is not a rapper, but you will see him arrayed as the caricature of a rapper here in just a few moments. But they are taking on this whole notion that there's certain suppression that takes place so that people can elevate a message that is detrimental to people's health. All right, let's get to that sound here today. This is Ben Shapiro, Tom McDonald, and the song Facts that has recently come out on the Ben Shapiro Show. They're talking about it.
So, G, tell me about how Facts is doing. It's #1 on the iTunes charts in the United States. It's trending all the way up to #2 worldwide, but we're facing some entrenched opposition from members of the industry who don't like the insurgent campaign that we have been waging against them. They don't know the true artistry of hip hop, I think, from people like, I mean, you actually...
This is completely overdone on purpose. Just like Lady Ballers was intentionally over the top, this is intentionally over the top. It's a genius idea. I will have to give Ben Shapiro that. It is a genius idea. I'm not a huge Ben Shapiro fan, but on this particular occasion, I can appreciate what it is that he's doing.
You know what you're doing, but like from me, I don't think anyone expected me to just, be as amazing as I am at this, clearly. And I've got the bling to, like, I'm ready to go. I've been hitting all the clubs, leading a new lifestyle, but we still have to overcome some obstacles, Tom.
Absolutely. Well, it's nice to see you entrenched in the culture. The craziest part about this is I almost showed up dressed as you today. But yeah, man, it's been, for your first step out the door, Ben, you absolutely killed it. We're #1 in all genres on iTunes, #2 worldwide on iTunes, which is unheard of, especially for somebody making their first rap song.
What kind of tattoo? Anytime somebody has this many tattoos, I can't even focus on sometimes what it is that they're saying because I'm looking at the tattoos and I'm trying to read. He's got like wraparound tattoos. So I'm like trying to read around his forehead, trying to read down his neck. Like, what is going on here? What would possess someone to get this many tattoos of all the different things that are going on there? I got to figure out the Tom McDonald story because there's a lot going on the inside. And I'm sure, as you can see, there's a lot going on the outside.
Nicki Minaj dropped her diss song today against Megan Thee Stallion. So we're up against some stiff competition, but thus far, we've held down that top spot. I don't think she's going to be able to shake us, man.
I don't think so either, especially because, I saw that Megan Thee Stallion, that she actually, she lowered her price, that she's almost giving it away. I mean her song in any case. But let's talk about, all of the various algorithms that are now being used to suppress the song because they really do not want us to hit #1 on the Billboard charts, obviously.
For artists,
yeah,
especially independent artists.
Well, it started before the song got even released. Obviously, I distribute all my music independently through TuneCore. And
so there's TuneCore. Many of you guys have used that. We used to use TuneCore. It's an aggregate that kind of puts music out and distributes it to all the various online stores so that you can legitimately go to a concert and say anywhere you stream music, you'll be able to find this song or this album. CD Baby is another one that does some of that same work. We're using DistroKid now, and I don't know if there's necessarily an advertisement for DistroKid, but just transparency. It's Erskin Music Show. I can talk about what it is that we do. We use DistroKid, or so I should say we used DistroKid until I signed a distribution deal last year with New Day Distributors. And so that's kind of the trail that I took there from TuneCore to DistroKid to a distribution deal with New Day Distribution in Nashville.
TuneCore actually denied the release of the song. Before the video release, before anybody even knew you were on the song,
wow.
I had tried to submit and release the song through TuneCore, and they turned it down, which is super frustrating because for an independent artist, TuneCore exists as the alternative to getting a record deal, and they exist as the alternative to getting a distribution deal. They're supposed to be there for independent artists who are avoiding the mainstream record label system of the music industry. So they denied the song on account of lyrical content before the song even hit the internet. So that was our first obstacle. We ended up getting the song to iTunes and Amazon and Spotify. We ended up getting it out. But the obstacles didn't stop there. Now, if you just take a quick peruse of the trending charts on YouTube right now, Megan Thee Stallion is at number 1, and our new video, Facts, is at number 2. And if you just take 2 seconds to look at the metrics on the video, we're outperforming her in every metric. We have over 1 million more views than her. We have 50,000 more comments than she has. We're outperforming. Her video is performing objectively worse than ours.
Okay. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't like to get into conspiracy theories, but I'm just simply saying the metrics don't measure up. The music industry is not going to let this happen. The reason why I'm bringing this up here, and I'll go about a minute or so more with this. In fact, I'm going to fast forward it to about the 7-minute mark. You guys can see that in its entirety. That's why I leave the show notes in the show so that you guys can go back and you can reconstruct the entire show. You can click on this link and you can see all 11 minutes of this particular interview. Let me see what goes on here.
What I ordered versus.
Let me get through this advert because I want you guys to see this later section of what they're discussing.
Her actual lyrics. I'm just going to read her lyrics here because this is what I became famous in the rap community for, is my reading of lyrics. This is like an actual lyric. This is the beginning of her song. Quote, "I just want to kick this bleep off by saying F y'all. I ain't got to clear my name on an MFing thing. Every time I get mentioned, one of y'all B-A-N words get 24 hours of attention." So yeah, that's clearly saying there are not enough American flags is like exactly the same as whatever the hell it is that Megan Thee Stallion is doing. Clearly, I mean, if we're gonna make sure that the kids don't see damaging material, we got to stop Tom McDonald.
Man, it's
and this is
in
important.
our
I
song.
this is
I
good to
think
hear.
in the pre-chorus is we talked about not promoting guns. We talked about not promoting drugs. We talked about not turning people's sons into thugs and their daughters into hoes. And, we sort of spoke out against like what the status quo in hip hop is.
Yep.
And for some reason, we're treated, we're living in some sort of upside down, backwards freak show. And it just seems like the most destructive material. And hip hop is full of a lot of destructive material. The promotion of violence, the romanticizing of.
I wish they talked about a little bit more CHH. I wish they talked about a little bit more CHH on this, because there are some destructive elements in hip hop, but there is a revival, and I would say this is kind of a flowering of both the independent and Christian hip hop that's out there. I'm gonna refrain from making comments about some of the ways that the industry handles things, but I will say that there's a lot of good momentum taking place in the Christian hip hop space that is counter to the message and commensurate with what it is that they're talking about.
Mental health and prescription drugs recreationally. It seems like those things tend to get the most mainstream attention, and anything that speaks out against that, especially in our case, has been suppressed. So
I just wanted to get you guys around the idea of censorship, suppression, and just give this thought. This is for the Christian gatekeepers that are out there, or any of the gatekeepers. I would say for all the gatekeepers that are out there, and this is how I'm going to close the show today, you should be very afraid. You should be very afraid that there's now developing a sort of pseudo system that's out there that is designed at getting around you, that is designed at overcoming the suppression that you as the gatekeeper have held the key to for many years. In fact, there are many who are at the door who are ready to just go ahead and bust through the door. And that's going to happen. It's not a matter of if that's going to happen, that is already happening and it's going to happen. And if you are a gatekeeper who is suppressing and keeping people at bay and trying to keep your dominant message, you are going to get pummeled here in just a few moments. Not physically, but the algorithms and things that are out there, people figuring out creative ways to work around that and to work within the system and to work in ways that are able to get another message that's out there. Be very afraid that's about to happen. You may be out of a job here relatively soon. Don't mean to scare anybody out there, but I'm just simply saying you can't beat them and you don't want to join them. And so you got to figure out some things here pretty quickly. But I say that to say this. Do you guys remember it was Selmer and a few of the other just sort of off-color homosexual activist, pseudo faux Christian artists that were out there that were able to chart some songs on the chart for Christian music? The number one Christian song was written by somebody who wasn't a Christian. And a lot of the trolling that has taken place, if you're a Christian gatekeeper, you should be very afraid, because the same thing is about to happen to you. There are going to be non-Christians and people who have the homosexual agenda and LGBT agenda who are out there who are going to try to produce songs and get their massive following to drive up the metrics to the point where those number one songs become the songs that enfranchise their position about inclusivity and their position new age, their position homosexuality. And as Christian gatekeepers who have kind of kept those things at bay, there may come a time in which they're going to say, here's our metrics. Why are we not being considered for all the awards that you guys are being considered? That's why Derek Webb and all those guys were at the Dove Awards this year. They're trolling and they're getting ready to kind of state and make their case. And they've been trying to do that. Selmer and others that are out there to state and to make their case. And so as Christians in the Christian music industry, I want to look in the camera and I want to give you a very important message. I think you made a mistake, but I think you can fix it. Well, by the grace of God. I think you made the mistake that was saying you don't necessarily need Jesus in order to make a profit off of Jesus. And you've created an industry with low accountability, a low bar of expectation in relationship to actual gospel and doctrine. And then what you've created now is a system where if it's only driven by money and it's only driven by a bottom line, you're about to get flipped by folks who are not actually Christians, and you're going to have to be okay with it. Or come back and find out what I would tell you guys to do on the Erskin Music Show.
Well, that certainly gives a sense of why people enjoy this show. Very engaging, very heartfelt. We will return to the conversation in a few moments, but first, let's thank our sponsors and you for all your awesome support. Moody Radio's Dawn and Steve Morning Show, Life Action Ministries, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and Holt International. Thanks so much to our partners who make such a difference.
Thanks, Jason. This is Dawn.
And this is Steve of Don and Steve in the Morning on Moody Radio. You can find us online at donandsteve.org, or you can listen through the Moody Radio app.
And as friends of the Erskin Music Show, we always enjoy the variety of topics our friend has on his show.
So, on behalf of our show, thanks, Erskin, for bringing great Christ-centered topics to the people.
All right, let's get back to the show. This is where it gets good.
All right, so let's get to it. Our top story for today. Without further delay, we're almost at 30 minutes today, and I got to get into this thing. So let's go. Let's get it. All right, so this is from Face the Nation. Face the Nation's music is not that epic now. Come on now. Y'all are not that epic. Come on. All right, so this is from Face the Nation. This was on Sunday. Just to kind of let you guys know, the reason why things are not getting done, there's a lot of politics that are involved in this. And I'll just highlight a couple of things that you guys are going to hear in this. I just want you guys to see it before you see it, hear it before you hear it. But you're going to hear that there's Republicans and there's Democrats, and for some reason, they both think they have a solution to the problem that is there. And they both think that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Here's the gridlock. They both think that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They both think the other party is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so we just can't figure out how to get anything done. One of the things that you'll hear in this, if you're listening very closely, and I don't think you have to listen very closely, you probably already know this, the Republicans don't want to do anything with the Democrats until Donald Trump, whom they believe is just going to be a landslide election. This is an easy shoe-in. They don't want to do anything until he gets elected president so that his administration can take the credit for what it is that's going to be done. And so you literally are going to hear Republicans who are kowtowing to and waiting for a response from Donald Trump, who's not a president. As far as we know, as a former president, he has no elected office. He is, I wouldn't say he's a nobody, but he's not anybody in whom present acting governmental officials should be listening to in reference to what he thinks about anything. He didn't have a say in any of that. But since they believe that he's going to win the election, they're going to wait to hear what it is that he has to say. And he's saying, don't sign it. Don't work with the Democrats. Don't participate in any way with this, because he has a vested interest. If you go back and you see any of his sound bites and seeing his prediction that if President Biden gets elected, the economy is going to be in crisis, the borders are going to be flooded, and that hasn't necessarily materialized. And so let the thing go to seed. Let things get as bad as they possibly can so that he can come in and be a savior. Both parties play this game. Now, I'm definitely not going to take the side of the Democrats who have had legislation that they just don't follow. And the Republicans are going to come back in this, and they're simply going to say, what about the legislation that has been passed? When are you going to actually do anything about what you actually have said you're going to do? And so there's a really interesting thing they're going to bring in the second story that relates to Texas, my home nation, and what it is that's going on there. And so you'll get a chance to see how confused this issue is becoming. And as new legislation is passed, as bipartisan agreements are being brought to the forefront, you'll be able to actually see why things are not getting done. And I'll ask you guys some questions you guys can participate in. But then I'm going to give three solid solutions that Republicans and Democrats are going to steal for their own political purposes. But that's okay. They watch this show all the time, and they know this dude has some solutions. All right, here we go. Face the nation.
Well, I'm looking forward to President Trump having the opportunity to be able to read it like everybody else is. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now.
We do have a bipartisan deal. We're finishing the text right now. And the question is whether Republicans are going to listen to Donald Trump, who wants to preserve chaos at the border because he thinks that it's a winning political issue for him, or whether we are going to pass legislation which would be the biggest bipartisan reform of our border and immigration laws in 40 years.
Now, you guys know that we have immigration law, and part of the supercharged atmosphere of the discussion is if you have the laws, then why don't we obey the laws? If you have the laws and people are breaking the law, then by virtue of the fact that they're breaking the laws of our land, shouldn't there be an appropriate response? We'll get to that response in just a second, because I want you guys to actually see and hear the sound of what actually is going on down at the border. People don't see it. It's out of mind. It's out of sight. But once you see how porous the borders are, we literally have agents who are just walking them across the border. We literally have agents who can't do anything. There's this thing called a cell phone, and people are videoing, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But here's how both parties are hitting this thing backward and forward, and talking about immigration reform.
Even while he was president, he was specifically asking Congress to change the standard on asylum, to be able to tighten up, to be able to give him additional funds for deportation. All of those things are in this bill. So if he were to be president, this would be new authorities that he had actually asked for when he was president before.
We don't need a new bill. We need something to force Biden to comply with the law. Now, James is doing the best he can to try to explain the bill that, unfortunately, I don't know why they don't share it with us. We got to be very careful. We don't.
So here's one of the issues that also often springs up, and let me know what you guys think about this one, but it's the issue of transparency. What are we saying are the actual things that people are, government officials are actually doing? Is this transparent enough that the American people, one, can see the process playing out, two, that people will understand the process that is playing out? What I think should be clear is that both parties have a vested interest in this being a situation to be solved. I will come out and I will say, giving viable solutions to this issue is not one in which either party is actually wanting to do, because you can always play this game, right? There's legislation that's out there. Well, we've already passed something on that. We've already spent that money. We've already done those different things. And I'll just say, lurking in the background, if you listen to it, and if you listen close enough to even this soundbite from Face the Nation on last Sunday, these are just some of the broad themes that I'm pointing out for you here. And I'll give some more up-to-date current footage of what's going on. But if you listen to it in the background, listen to what both parties have at stake in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Israel. And if money is going to be spent, and I will say that there's a lot of money that's going to be spent. If money is going to be spent, what does immigration reform, hiring new agents, changing the process, what does that dip into in relationship to that reserve of money, or just new money? We're just going to print money so that we can pass these bills, so that we can allocate the funds to be able to do X, Y, and Z. What does that money dip into if we actually begin to change the process, or to enfranchise more people to be involved in the solution to the border? And so I would just simply say that we need to be very wary of both the Republicans and the Democrats in regards to this. And you say, well, what does that leave us with? I'll talk about that in just a little bit later. That's why you're watching this show. That's why they are watching this show, because they know all we need to do is just keep hitting this thing back and forward. We could say the former administration, they dropped the ball, and so now we're going to come and pick it up. And then doesn't matter who you are, Republican, Democrat, the former administration dropped the ball, and then we're going to come and pick it up, and we're going to do what it is that we need to do to make the border secure here in the United States of America. They both know that this is a losing issue, or if they can spin it a certain way, this is a winning issue. And so they're going to play this as a political football. Listen, American people, you guys are being crushed by a kakistocracy of a government run by fools who have no vested interest in actually helping the American people with a sense of, and I think I put this on here, it is courage to do what is right, and then also compassion to do what is right. And I think that you can have both of those things with regards to this issue. So I'm going to give you 3 issues later on, but let's get through the rest of this soundbite.
Codify Biden's open policies, and we don't hamstring Trump when he wins the presidency.
Look, this is a painful compromise. This is a tough bill. I wish it were an immigration reform bill and not just a border security bill. This compromise is also key to open.
So Tim Kaine from Virginia is also bringing out this issue. Are we talking about immigration reform and a process that has to do with a comprehensive immigration understanding that we have here? And I had all the court cases and different things that were pulled up today. I don't think we need to get in the weeds on that, but suffice it to say that there are advocacy groups that say, according to the bills that we presently have, here's how we should be conducting our affairs in relationship to immigration. There's that issue. But then there's specifically, as has been highlighted by some of the shenanigans in Texas, the border, the southern border security in our nation. And so there's 2 different conversations that are going on. And I don't want us to be confused by simply thinking that when we're talking about immigration, we're talking about all of it. It may just be a border resolution in terms of the response at our southern border.
Opening up the security funding that we need for Ukraine, humanitarian assistance in Gaza, defense support for Israel, all that is hinging upon getting this deal.
I don't know.
He said a lot. He said a lot.
The Senate version is going to be sufficient in the House. I don't know if Speaker Johnson will put it on the floor unless it has significant policy changes.
It is interesting. Republicans 4 months ago would not give funding for Ukraine, for Israel, and for our southern border because we demanded changes in policy. So we actually locked arms together and said, we're not going to give you money for this. We want a change in law. And now it's interesting, a few months later, when we're finally getting to the end, they're like, oh, just kidding. I actually don't want a change in law because it's a presidential election year. We all have an oath to the Constitution, and we have a commitment to say we're going to do whatever we can to be able to secure the border.
Okay, that's good. That good. Let's get that off of there so we can run this thing a little bit faster today. All right, a couple of questions that I have for you guys. what legitimately do you think that the elected officials can do? I'd love to see in the comment section you guys tune in and jump in and talk about this. But what legitimately do you think that elected officials can do, especially during an election year? Because there's this kind of ping-ponging going back and forth. Another question for you guys. Jump in the comment section and answer this. Do you think officials want to solve this issue? Or are we just going to pass half measures and kind of kick the can down the road? This is, yes or no, or any variation of answers that you want to give. What do you think about the political theater that is going on down in Texas and other places as immigrants are being shipped to cities like Chicago? They're being shipped to cities like New York, and they're just overwhelming to the point where schools are filled with immigrants, and the kids who go to those schools are actually at online learning. What do you think about that political football as that goes back and forth? That's a spicy tomato to get into here today.
Well, you probably already know that when you hear that sound, there's music on the way. After all, this is kind of a music show. Sit back and enjoy. All the music can be easily found on your favorite digital distribution channels. Turn up the volume and here we go.
Life is like a merry-go-round. One day you're up, the next one back down. Some days I don't have a clue of what my life would be like without you. And even when I don't understand, I will trust your unfailing hand. After all that is said and done, you're the one. Yeah, yeah. Round and round, that's how it goes. And where it stops, the Lord knows. Round and round, that's how it goes. I praise the Lord no matter what comes. I don't worry for tomorrow, 'cause every day has its own set of sorrows. Day to day I'm growing up, I'm getting closer. Jesus saved me and he made me much bolder. Even when I don't understand, I will trust his unchanging hand. After all that is said and done, you're the one. Yeah, yeah. Round and round, that's how it goes. And where it stops, the Lord knows. Round and round, that's how it goes. I praise the Lord no matter what comes. My head starts spinning, my life is going round. I celebrate, he's the treasure that I found. When my head starts spinning, my life is going round. I celebrate, he's the treasure that I found. Round and round and round. Round and round and round. Round and round and round. Round and round, that's how it goes. And where it stops, the Lord knows. Round and round, that's how it goes. I praise the Lord no matter what comes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Round and round and round and round. I praise the Lord.
Because the border has been deliberately opened wide, that we see the terrific horrors that are taking place across our country right now. Here's a short list. From Texas to New York, waves of illegal immigrants.
And I want you guys
Now
to see
overwhelmed.
kind of the state of the border as barriers are being put there. Wire, mesh, Eagle Pass is going to come more into focus here. And I just want us to see what the conditions are down there on the ground and what is being responded to.
In our communities. Just since the time I was elected speaker, less than 100 days
Check
ago,
that out.
more than 700,000 illegals
Check that
have
out.
been welcomed
That's
into
that
our
razor
country
wire situation that
illegally
everybody's
by the
talking
Biden
about.
administration.
The governor
American
put up
school
this razor
children
wire,
have been
and it
forced
makes
into
it
virtual
difficult,
schools. Why? So migrants
albeit
can sleep in their school buildings.
I won't say impossible, but it makes it extremely difficult for people to be able to pass through the border, to be able to have a port of entry. And so people have to climb through that. And there's literally people who try to climb through that. Sometimes they can't get through that. And so what they're doing is they're sticking babies and they're sticking children through these wires and like handing them to U.S. troops that are down there and border security folks that are down there. And so the controversy is erupted of, you know, the humanitarian thing to do is just receive these people, give them food, give them water, and then put them through a legal process. Or, as Greg Abbott and others have said, maybe we don't just let them walk into our country in some of the places where the border seems to be a little bit more open than other places. Maybe we make it difficult for them. And I don't think the language of deterrent is being used here, but Greg Abbott is basically saying we make it extremely difficult for them to just come into our country. And if you're going to climb through all of that razor wire, you are going to be hacked up. And if you keep climbing through the razor wire, knowing that you're getting hacked up, and that's on you. That's your own dumb fault for trying to go through all of that razor wire. And so you have people who are just walking through it.
Korean War veterans of the U.S. have been booted from nursing homes that were sold to house migrants. Our streets are being flooded with fentanyl. Hundreds of thousands of children and adults are being poisoned and losing their lives. Vulnerable children and women are being exploited and trafficked by cartels, and that's happening even within our borders.
So again, if you care about the humanitarian part of this, then you should probably tune in to this episode. If you care about the human trafficking part of this, you should probably tune in. If you care about the drug problem, then you should probably tune in. If you care about the economy, you should probably tune in. And I would say that among the issues, I think that Vivek was right. The amount of money that's being spent in Ukraine to fight a proxy war is a bit bizarre when we have things that are going on in our own country. Gaza spending, Israel defense spending, and all of these different things seems to be a bit odd without the transparency of those who are elected officials. It seems to be a bit odd until we begin to actually see that there's some rationale for doing that instead of doing the other thing that is most apparent. I wanted you guys to see some of these images today.
The fallout goes on and on and on. And I am here this morning to beg of my colleagues to help us force the administration to take action. We have to stop this now and put Americans and Americans' border security.
So here's the deal. I do appreciate Mike Johnson, and I do think that he is of the right mind when he speaks on these issues. He's got the right issues in mind. But if you were asking me to believe that they actually want to solve this problem when this problem has not been highlighted to this degree until it's time for us to start looking at who our elected officials are, you're just playing me the fool. You're just playing me as a fool. You're just playing the American people as a fool. Why is this now an issue? We've had all of this spending. We've had all of these bills. We've had all these things that are related to the foreign situation. We have domestic issues that are going on in our economy. We have domestic situations that are going on with relationship to drugs, human trafficking, and the economy as it relates to local communities on our southern border and how that impacts the United States itself. Why now is this an issue that we have to press to the point where it just gets uncomfortable for both parties? It's the political nature of how things don't get done in our country. This is not how you do things. This is not how you help the American people. And it's a shame to see that the ramping up of this
Among those
activity
who've been
is
apprehended on the
commensurate
southern
with the
border,
desires that the
between ports
Republicans
of
have
entry,
to create an issue
more than
that's
300
going to help
individuals
President
who are on our
Trump,
terror
former
watch
President
list.
Trump, get elected.
Terrorist watch list. The frightening question is,
But I want you guys to see
if
this.
so many terrorists were caught attempting to cross our borders, how many have entered undetected? We suspect it is a much higher number. The Biden administration has replaced detain and deport with catch and release. Instead of order, they have chosen for us disorder and chaos. Rather than securing the homeland, they've ceded the homeland to cartels and traffickers. By the way, at the Del Rio sector alone, at Eagle Pass, Texas, they told us the cartels are estimated. I think they said they're making $3.5 million a day.
All right, folks, follow the money. I was told that when I was young, and it has just held true throughout my entire life. Follow the money. Who benefits from doing this? These people are not all just walking across the land. It's like, hey, we just got to get to America. Situation is so bad. They are being paid. They are making money by busing people, transporting people to the border to come through the border, either for their purposes or their own specific monetary purposes, or because they're bringing something illegally into our country. The cartels make money off of this. This is business for them. Why do they need to go out and do dangerous and shady business when all they need to do is just pick somebody up, put them in a trailer, take them up to the border, and then collect payment? That is an easier form of government than smuggling and doing all these different things. Now, there's still smuggling and things that are going on. There's still trafficking that's going on. There's still abuse that's going on, but they are profiting like crazy out of this. And that's going to be part of my solution here in just a few moments.
Trafficking human beings into the country? Do the math. They're making over $1 billion a year, bringing undocumented children, trafficked children, victims right into the country and bringing them.
Yes.
They're doing this intentionally. They have chosen disorder and chaos. They have ceded the homeland to the traffickers and the cartels. And the Department of Homeland Security has effectively become
I want you guys to see what they're looking at.
To just help traffickers complete the last few miles of their human smuggling operation. And they're making billions of dollars in the process. It's all absolute madness.
As the president and his team continue working to deliver a historic bipartisan agreement on the border, House Republicans have a choice to make.
I think that Karen Jean-Pierre, I love her demeanor. I just don't think that the Biden administration, you guys, this goes without saying, as someone who's more conservative, don't think the Biden administration has an actual plan that they are actually trying to implement that is actually going to help the American people. And so a lot of the speak that comes from the White House press secretary is couched in this language of, we are doing historic things. We are knocking it out of the park, when everybody knows that you're not. So I appreciate her demeanor. I do like her demeanor. I think she has a lot of class, but the statements that the Biden administration is making is just completely, in some regards, absolute foolishness.
They can keep playing politics, or they can work in a bipartisan way to secure the border.
I'm gonna let her speak.
Sadly, this is not new. For years, they have refused to heed the president's request for action on much needed funding for border security. For example, in the bill the president introduced in his first day in office more than 1,000 days ago, he requested funding to develop and deploy expediting screening technology to improve our ability to catch narcotics and contraband at every port of entry. Republicans never acted on the bill. Each year in office, President Biden has requested record-breaking border security funding into law. But without exception, House Republicans have tried to stop the president from delivering the resources we need at the border. As recently as October, President Biden submitted a supplemental request for additional resources for border security. House Republicans did not take it up. Now, House Republicans are going further and signaling that they may refuse even to consider a historic bipartisan border security deal that would strengthen America's national security. Perhaps Speaker Johnson and House Republicans should reflect on what they've had to say over just the past few months. In October, Speaker Johnson said, we must come together and address the broken border. And in November, he said, I think we can get a bipartisan agreement on border security.
This
but
is
suddenly,
an immigrant who's trying
we've
to
heard
open
a
this up here
change
so that
of
people
tune.
can actually climb
One
through.
Republican member from Texas even said, why would they do anything to help President Biden?
And so folks got to just stand around and they got to watch this. They're down there at the border, you know, their time, attention, energy, protecting this country. I guess watch people just come into our country.
This is about helping the president. This is about helping the American people. It's not about helping the president. It's about the American people. This is about securing the border. Republicans in the Senate are working with us to do just that. Republicans in the House should as well.
When they said they were going to cut the wire down.
Now, here's the deal. Here's the lurking variable in all of this. Texas could throw this thing completely into chaos. And I want you guys to see this part, and then we'll be done with this. And I'll give you guys 3 solutions, and we'll be out for today. But you do know that there's convoys of people who are headed down to the border in Texas. And I don't know exactly how far they'll go or to what extent they'll go. But these Texas convoys of RVs, yeah, maybe that's why this show's gotten censored. Look, I'm a native Texan. Let me just speak to the Texans that are watching this. Let me speak to any of the convoy people. Just stay classy, folks. If you have never been in certain parts of Texas where the idea of secession, where the idea of protecting Texas as a nation is supreme, then you don't really know Texas. I'm not going to say that this is what is going to happen. I wouldn't say that. But I just think you should probably be aware that there are some things going on down in Texas that are related to this issue and maybe some other issues that, depending on how things go, a political twist and a political turn could be the match that lights the kindling, that lights the fire, that lights the thing, that blows. Anyway, so I'm not war hawking this thing at all. I'm just simply saying that there's parts of Texas that, sadly to say, my home nation, are a little unhinged. And so I don't know who's the biggest driver in all of this, the craziness of the cartel or the craziness of the Texans, but they're on a collision course with one another, with the immigrants in between. And so that's a little dangerous, but I'm gonna let you hear a little bit of the sound just so you guys know that there's some major players, and Texas and the unhinged part of Texas is actually a factor in what's going on.
Down there and let them start crossing the border again. They need to close the borders. I grew up in Arizona, man. It was never a problem like that. This is crazy. Our country's being overtaken.
I would love to see Governor Landry support.
All right. So we don't need to hear her. I mean, she said some good stuff there. You guys can get all the show notes. I got to get to my solutions here for just a few moments. All right. I got 3 solutions for you guys today. Thank you for watching this to the end of the show. We got about 2 or 3 minutes, and so I won't be able to talk about these solutions today. But that's what I'll talk about later episode. Later. So let's give it to them like this. These are solutions that will solve the immigration problem tomorrow. You do this today, they're done tomorrow. My first take, and this is a hot take. I have my sound effects. It'd be hot take. We got to vote all the idiots out of office. No, that's not my first take. We are fighting a proxy war in Ukraine. As much as anybody can discern, you have the bad guy of Vladimir Zelensky, and you have the badder guy of Putin in Russia. We know that that's not a good option. It's not a good situation, but we don't want the badder guy to succeed, and so we're going to support the bad guy. Really messy, really sloppy option there, but it's what we face at this point because we don't want to see the proliferation of Russia again. You don't want to deal with that again. And so we're going to deal with that over there, and we're going to fight a proxy war over there. And there's already been drone attacks and saber rattling and different things because Russia knows Ukraine's army is not that strong. They're strong when we make them strong, and we've made them strong so that they can fight against Russia. So Russia knows that they're fighting against Ukraine and they're fighting against the United States. It's a proxy war. Why do we not understand this to be the same type of situation? Why are we not with Mexico, our leaders, our illustrious leaders, talking to Mexico and saying, okay, so here's the deal. America's going to come in and you're going to help because of the war that is being, and I would couch it in these terms, we are fighting a war against the drug cartels in Mexico. Mexico, you are fighting a war against the drug cartels in Mexico, but in Mexico, you're cowards and you can't defeat the drug cartels. So the drug cartels actually run the Mexican government to a certain extent because you guys are cowards. We're not cowards. We're the United States of America. We're going to come in and fight a proxy war. So we're either going to show you how to use this equipment or we'll help you use this equipment, but you are going to use this equipment on your side of the border, and you're going to use some of the same terminology that we're talking about in Gaza. You are going to wipe out these militants. Nobody has a problem when we're talking about Hamas. Well, I'll say nobody, but no right-thinking person has a problem when we talk about Hamas and eliminating the capacity and the capability of Hamas. And if they go and hide, we're going to go and find them. If they go and create, if they go and are funded, we're going to wipe them out. And people said, Israel has a right to kind of do what they need to do to secure their nation. America has a right to do what we need to do. And so the proxy war needs to begin by us sending whatever we need to send to Mexico so that they completely debilitate and destroy this, as Mike Johnson was saying, billion-dollar industry of them bringing illegal immigrants and drugs and things into our country. They are going to be defeated on that side of the border, and Mexico is going to help, or we're going to help Mexico help. Either way, that issue solves a lot of what's going on there, because the cartels, once their stranglehold is broken, then you literally are with people who are having to walk and get various forms of transportation getting in this country. It greatly reduces the number of people who are coming to the border to something that is more manageable that we can deal with. Number two, we can elect, number two is my solution, we can elect a third party that actually has some viability to be able to deal with some of these solutions apart from the kakistocracy of the Republicans and the Democrats. That is going to be my political solution, and in a lot of different things. We are not well served by the Republicans or the Democrats. This third party would be able to come in with fresh solutions, fresh ideas, and be able to dismantle some of the reckless spending, reckless policies, and reckless approaches to the situation. Third thing, technology. We are discussing and have been discussing for some time technology, AI, and a lot of different things that are out there. AI robots, AI monitoring, AI security, all those different things, new security systems, all these different million-dollar things that tech companies are involved in producing and creating that serve the purpose of the leisure, or serve the purpose of making efficiency more of a project here in the United States. But you guys know, you're not an idiot. You're not dumb watching this today. You recognize that technology can also be used for military and defense. We have this brilliant and amazing technology. Yeah, it's going to make life easier for certain people in the realm of efficiency and leisure. However, that technology can also be used in security. That is the most humane, and listen, I'm advocating for it. Look in my face. I'm advocating for it. That is the most humane way of dealing with some of these issues where we have actual troops and actual people who are in harm's way, who are involved in this. Let's begin to develop the technology, since we already have it, or use the technology that is detection and deportation, and go figure out what that means. But we're going to incentivize the businesses who are going to give us the best solutions to be able to do that. I'm not the one who's developing that technology, but that technology can be had to be able to tag and to be able to deport and detect who's coming into our country, whether we tag them and detect them here, and there's some sort of device that lets us know, hey, they've moved to this particular area, and they're all documented in that sense, or there's some kind of way to preemptively stop them from coming into our country. We have the technology to be able to do it, or we're on the verge of creating the technology to be able to do it, and we need to enfranchise businesses to be able to use this technology for the benefit of security, tagging, detention, and actual deportation when necessary as a result of the technology that we're creating. All right, those are three solutions that would get it done today. I'm gonna get out of here. Vote for a third party.
We have come to the end of this episode. Don't miss a final word from Erskin.
Hey guys, tell your friends about this show, and as always, I look forward to your interactions. Please contact us as you are able. We love to hear from you. Okay, friends, let's go and make a difference.